Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jordan and welcome to today's video, which is going to be a bi-monthly wrap-up, kind of a recap of my March and April reading months. We're going to talk through my reading stats, the books that I read, and give reviews for the ones I haven't talked about already. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how I'm doing on my progress towards my yearly reading goals. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's get into it. So the way that I structure these bi-monthly wrap-ups this year is I will first do each month at a time, talking about my monthly reading stats, and then the videos I posted, the books I've talked about, and then talk about any other books I haven't talked about yet. After I do that for both of the months, then I will talk about my cumulative progress towards yearly reading goals. So we will start, of course, with March. And within that, we'll start with the reading stats. So in March, I completed 8 books. 7 of those 8 books were intended for reading vlogs. There's kind of an asterisk there because only 4 of them actually ended up in a reading vlog. The other 3 were in a vlog that never got posted. And then just 1 book I read quote unquote for fun, didn't vlog it for any sort of video. As far as the genre breakdown goes, for the 8 books that I completed, 4 of them were mystery thrillers. 2 of them were historical fiction, 1 was contemporary, and 1 was a nonfiction book. As far as my star ratings, I had 0 1-star books, I had 2 2-star books, 2 3-star books, 3 4-star books, and 1 5-star book to make for an average rating of 3.375. And the format breakdown of the books that I read, 6 of the 8 books I primarily listened to the audio of, and 2 books I primarily read ebook version specifically because they were NetGalley books that I was reading. As far as the author demographics go, for the 8 books that I finished, 6 of the 8 books were written by female identifying authors, 2 were by male identifying authors, and as far as race of the authors, 5 of the 8 books were written by non-white authors, which I'm very excited to see that number tipped in the non-white direction on the scale. And then the other thing I track as far as diversity in the books is the actual representation inside the books. So not just the author that wrote them, but also if the main characters have any sort of diverse representation, whether it comes to race, ethnicity, gender, or sexual orientation, as well as things like translated books, or books with disability representation. I capture all of that in as diverse representation, and this month 5 of my 8 books contained some sort of diverse representation. Also, of course, some books contain multiple forms of diverse representation. There's a lot of intersectionality that happens within the books that I read, but those only get captured once because I'm counting it per book. And then the last stat that I track on a monthly basis is the publishers that I'm reading from. So in March, 6 of the books were written by one of the big 5 publishers, and only 2 were published by indie presses or published independently by the authors. Okay, then getting right on into the books that I read, 4 of the 8 books, like I said, were already featured in a reading vlog. I did post my booktuber favorites video part 3 in the month of March. And so all of the books that I already talked about in that video, you can go watch that video for all of my in-depth thoughts. In this video, I'm just gonna share the titles, the genres, and my star ratings. So in this video, first of all, I read Only This Beautiful Moment by Abdi Nazemian, which is a historical fiction book. Also kind of a multi-generational family story that I rated 4 stars. Also in that video, I read Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose, which is a mystery thriller that unfortunately I rated 2 stars. Then I read All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby, which is a really gritty, dark mystery thriller that I rated 3 stars. And then the final book for this video was The Color of a Lie by Kim Johnson, which was a historical fiction book that I also rated 3 stars. So again, go check out that video if you want more in-depth thoughts on any of those books specifically. Then the other reading vlog that I was attempting to make during this time was an ARCs reading vlog for my March and April ARCs. And honestly, time just got away from me. I didn't film vlog updates close to the time that I finished these books. And enough time went by that I started to forget all of my thoughts on them. And now we're multiple months after the fact, so it doesn't feel relevant to post an ARCs vlog at this point, but I will still review here the books that I attempted to read for that video. So the first book that I had received as a NetGalley ARC that I was going to put into a vlog is Finley Donovan Digs Her Own Grave by Elle Cosimano. This is book number 5 in the Finley Donovan kind of cozy mystery series. I've had a very up and down relationship with this series so far. I generally enjoyed the first book in the series. I did not enjoy enjoy it quite as much as a lot of other people did, but I did enjoy it enough to continue on in the series. The second book in the series I thought was just okay, but then the third and fourth books I started to enjoy more. Actually, the fourth book I think was my second favorite book after the first book in the series. So again, kind of an up and down enjoyment situation. And then this fifth book in the series, unfortunately, I was really let down by. I thought that books 3 and 4 in this series took place in really fun, interesting settings, which made the content feel a little bit more fresh, whereas this one was set back in Finley's hometown and there was no fun like gimmick to it in my opinion, so I was missing that a lot in this book. And otherwise there was just nothing else that really interested me in the book. I didn't feel like the mystery was that interesting. It was the first time in this series, surprisingly in the fifth book, that I really felt like I was like, okay, I feel like we're really just hitting a dead horse at this point. Like we don't need to keep dragging on the same kind of storylines. So I lost interest for sure by the end of this book. And like I said, I rated it 2 stars. Okay, the next arc that I had received on NetGalley is one that I have not heard anybody else talk about, so I was really excited to feature it. It's called A Girl Within a Girl Within a Girl by Nanda Reddy, and I definitely requested this one just because I thought the cover was pretty and that title was intriguing to me. But this is a contemporary fiction book that is told with a few different perspectives. First, we're following a young girl who lives in Guyana, and we're learning about her life and her family. And then we jump forward to this other perspective of a woman who is living in the United States, and she gets a letter from a family member who she has lost touch with. And it brings up a lot of thoughts and feelings about her history, her past, her life. And we find out early on in this book that these two women are the same. So that young girl in Guyana is the same as this woman who now lives in America. And through this book, we fill the gap of what has happened throughout her whole life, and specifically how this woman has had to like change her identity multiple times in order to save her own life and to keep herself safe. So it's this really, really interesting story of the growing up of this woman and her story of moving from Guyana to the United States and everything that she's tried to do to protect herself, to provide for her family. And I found it really, really interesting. This is a book that I have thought a lot about since finishing it. And that's maybe one good thing about talking about it now rather than in a vlog in the moment, is that I can tell you that this story has lingered with me, which maybe is to speak towards my rating. I gave this book 4 stars, but the fact that I keep revisiting the story in my mind kind of pulls it to more like a 4.5 in my mind. Like it's getting stronger in my memory, which is not always the case with books that we finish, right? Sometimes they dwindle in our memory and the rating kind of fades, but this is one that has stayed really strong as at least a 4 star, probably more like a 4.5 star in reality. I can't think of any other books that I've read that specifically feature Guyanese characters, so I loved reading about that, getting to know the culture of this girl living in Guyana when she was a young girl, but also I loved the emotional journey she goes through in growing up as a woman and finding out what she's gonna do after getting sent this letter as an adult. I just found it really, really interesting, so I highly recommend it to anyone who that story sounds interesting to. If you're looking for a diverse perspective or a story with a main character from a place you haven't read from before, if you haven't read a book set in Guyana, then I do recommend this one strongly. And then the third and final NetGalley arc that I read within March is This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. I have read, I believe, all of Ashley Winstead's books up to this point, and I enjoyed her earlier works. I don't think I had many 5 stars from her early mystery thrillers or her contemporary romances, but her previous book to this one, Midnight is the Darkest Hour, I absolutely loved and gave it 5 stars. And this book from her, I absolutely loved and I gave it 5 stars. This book is a mystery thriller. It's about our main character who loses her father at the very start of this story. And as a way to kind of process her grief, she finds herself on true crime message boards online, trying to solve the cases of other murders. Again, as a way of kind of coping and healing and grieving her own loss in her real life. And this book just really shows how people in the true crime world get sucked into the rabbit hole that is solving true crime cases. And that's something that I can't personally relate to. I've never personally been all that interested in true crime. I don't listen to true crime podcasts. I've never been on like a true crime message board before, but I loved that this book gave me that perspective and totally convinced me and showed me how somebody could fall into that as a hobby. And this book definitely had a ton of commentary about the good and the bad that comes from having this type of community, and the good and the harm that these kind of internet sleuths can cause towards ongoing investigations, and like the sensationalism of a true crime and the good and the bad that that brings to cases, and like the awareness and then the over awareness and like the intrusiveness that verges on when you're talking about active investigations. I just thought all of that commentary was very well done, and I was very, very invested in this main character and this journey that she was on for herself and the cases that they got into. It was just riveting to me. I was so engaged in the story. I absolutely flew through it, and I'm so excited that Ashley Winstead is now an author that her 2 most recent books have been such winners for me. I'm excited to see what she writes next. I really love the commentary that she injects into her fictional thriller stories. I don't think that that's something that is often done, but I love that her books have something to say. And so I am officially an Ashley Winstead stan, and I highly, highly recommend this book to anyone who thinks that it might sound good for them. 5 stars if I didn't already say that. All right, and then the 8th and final book that I read in March was a nonfiction book that I didn't necessarily have any plans to read before starting the month, but I got a copy of it through Libro FM and their advanced listener copy program. I was able to download this book for free and listen to it. It's I'm That Girl by Jordyn, and it's the memoir of an Olympic medal winning gymnast, and I really, really enjoyed it. I don't know if this is really a question or controversy that comes up, but this book made me think about the question that I could see some people asking about sort of pseudo celebrities who write memoirs who are still really young, that potential critics could ask, like, do they really need a memoir, or do they really have enough to say to warrant writing a memoir? And this book has me very firmly planted in the side of the argument to say yes. Like, in my opinion, if you've gone through something notable, I say write the memoir. It doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to have a ton of profound things to say, but I do think it's important to have stories out there, especially when they're about people overcoming adversity. And that's what I got out of this book from Jordyn. She is an Olympic gymnast, and she has gone through a lot. Even though she's a very young person, her whole story of coming up through elite gymnastics and the things she's gone through, including injuries, including struggles making the Olympic team, including her situation that happened at the most recent Olympics where her 3rd place medal got stripped from her, and including contact. Though she wasn't a victim, she still trained at the training camp where Larry Nassar was a trainer. And again, she wasn't specifically a victim, but she was very much in that world. She had very close friends and teammates who were victims, and so she was able to speak a little bit on that topic as well. So all of those things I feel like just make for a very interesting story. And while I wouldn't call this a life-changing memoir for me personally, I do feel like Jordyn has a worthy story of being told, and I can totally see how the right reader might totally have their life changed from reading her story. Maybe if they have a similar background to her, or they are also biracial and trying to become a gymnast, for example. Or maybe they're going through some kind of adversity that's not exactly like Jordyn's. I just feel like seeing somebody or hearing somebody tell their story of how they got through that, and highlighting not just the high highs, but also the low lows that she's had to go through, but where that brought her and how much stronger she is because of that. I felt like this was a great way to spend the, 4 hours or whatever it took me to listen to this audiobook. So I'm a big fan. I rated this book 4 stars, and again, highly recommend it to anyone else who it sounds interesting to. Alrighty, now we can get into April, which is going to go a little bit quicker because I only finished 5 books in April. Of these 5 books, 1 was in a reading blog that did get posted, 1 more was in that reading blog that didn't get posted, 1 was for an online book club, and then 2 were just for fun for me. For the genre breakdown, 2 were contemporary romances, 1 was a mystery thriller, 1 was a science fiction, and 1 was a fantasy book. As far as my star ratings go, I had 0 1-star books, 1 2-star, 1 3-star, 3 4-stars, and unfortunately no 5-star books, to make for an average rating of 3.4 stars. My format breakdown, I read 2 of these books primarily physically, 2 books primarily on audio, and 1 ebook. As far as author demographics, 3 of these books were written by female identifying authors, 2 by male identifying. As far as the racial breakdown, 2 of these books were written by non-white authors, 3 of them were by white authors, and 3 of the 5 books featured some form of diverse representation, which I talked about earlier. Last but not least, the publisher breakdown. 4 of the 5 books were written by one of the big 5 publishers, while 1 was independently published by an independent press. Okay, let's talk about the books. So the first one I have featured already in a reading vlog that has already been posted. It's Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I cannot believe I finally read this book, but I surprisingly had a great time with it. I rated it 4 stars, and I talk way more about it in that fantasy reading vlog. Then I read one more book that was supposed to go in my March and April ARCs video, but never got posted. So I read Meet Me at Blue Hour by Sarah Suk. This is a young adult sci-fi book about memory. It has to do with this girl whose mother is the founder and CEO of this memory clinic, which got famous for this service that they provide to actually erase people's traumatic memories. And that has had a huge impact on the world at the time of this book taking place. And then this facility is now experimenting with the ability to bring memories back. So we follow this young main character as she and her former best friend, who is this boy, basically reconnect, and they find out some things that have happened to them in the past related to memory alteration. I really love Sarah Suk's writing. I love her concepts in her book. This book, and specifically her previous book called The Space Between Here and Now, both are in this young adult sci-fi type realm. That previous one I gave 5 stars. This one I gave 4 stars, so I didn't love it quite as much, but I still really enjoyed it. I love the commentary that came along with this book and the examination of memory alteration and the moral implications that come along with that. I just really enjoyed those conversations, and I actually feel like some of my, previously conceived notions or like my assumptions about that type of technology changed throughout the book, because I did see a number of different perspectives highlighted in this book that I thought brought really good points and that I hadn't thought all that much about in the past, because of course this is not a reality for us at this time. But I appreciate that this author clearly did think a lot about it and wrote a story with many different perspectives that I think any reader could get something out of and think about this topic in a new way. So really enjoyed that one and gave it 4 stars. Then the next book that I read is Tell Me What You Did by Carter Wilson. And this is a mystery thriller that I actually read for Gabby's book club over on her channel, Gabby Reads. Her book club is called The Book Troop. And I was so excited to join her for the discussion on this book. And because we did a whole live show on it with spoilers and everything, I won't go too in depth with my thoughts here, but I did give this book 2 stars, unfortunately. It started off really strong and really went downhill for me. And I was not alone with my feelings on this. That live show ended up being a little bit of a roast of the book. So definitely check that out, like I said, if you want to hear more of my thoughts. And also, if you didn't read this book and you now have no interest in reading it because of my low rating, we do talk about everything that happened in the book, like to explain it to anyone who didn't read it. So if you're just here for the tea and you just want to hear a roast about a book that you're never going to read, then you can go there for that as well. Then I read 2 books in April that I didn't intend to feature in any sort of reading vlogs. The first one is Sailor Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. This is Abby Jimenez's newest contemporary romance book. I have read almost all of her previous contemporary romances. This one is very sad and emotional, and it's getting some mixed reviews because of that fact, but I did really enjoy it. This one is about 2 main characters who meet each other and have a really strong connection. Well, actually they meet each other and have kind of a, like the opposite of a meet cute. They have kind of a weird first encounter where they kind of butt heads a little bit. Then they meet again and have a first date situation that turns into this long, funny night. And at the end of that, they're feeling this really strong connection when they realize that the female main character is about to move to California and the man lives in Minnesota. So they have to make the decision about whether they are wanting to pursue this relationship, as it will be long distance, and they decide to. And this is all about the trials and tribulations that they go through as a long distance couple. Not only that, but they are both dealing with some really serious things in their personal life. The female main character's mother is experiencing dementia, and so she is acting as a caregiver for her mother in California and going through all of the emotional stuff that goes along with that. And then the male main character owns his own veterinary clinic and barely making ends meet, so he is trying to work as much as he can to keep that business afloat and also try to make enough money to be able to fly out to California to see his girlfriend. And this book is just very raw in how it features that long distance relationship. And it's the type of story that it just goes on and on with all of this sadness. But to me, that was kind of the point, and I actually kind of appreciated that because I really feel like it showed just how difficult adult relationships can be. Not that all of them are that way, and not that relationships should be that way forever, but sometimes people have some really difficult things to work through that they need to work through independently. But I also enjoyed seeing them both make the effort, even though both of them couldn't always give 100%, and there definitely were times where they kind of needed to pick up the slack for each other. I liked seeing it depicted. I don't think I would like to read every romance book if it were like this and if it were primarily struggles and sadness, but every once in a while I do think it works for me. And to me, it just got the point across of the exhaustion that these characters were feeling, and that carried over into the reader experience, which I was ultimately okay with. I understand why some people weren't okay with that. They don't want to read romance books that are just sadness, but I felt like it all came together and I gave it 4 stars. Then the last book that I read in April was called 24 Seconds From Now by Jason Reynolds. This is a young adult contemporary romance book about these 2 teenagers who are in a relationship, and they're at the point of their relationship where they're wanting to take it to the next level, if you know what I mean. But this book is told in an interesting format where it kind of goes back in time, where it's like 24 seconds until they're gonna do this thing, and then it goes back to 24 minutes before that, and then 24 hours before that, and then we go back like years into the past and we just see their whole relationship develop. And I thought it was cute. It wasn't overly profound to me, but I don't know that it was intending to be as a young adult book. Jason Reynolds is an author that I really enjoy, so I will continue to pick up his books into the future. This wasn't my favorite by him, but I had kind of picked up this book on a whim from my local independent bookstore. So I'm happy I gave it a chance, but I did give it 3 stars. Okay, and now it is time to go through my progress towards my yearly goals. I did post a video at the very beginning of this year talking through my 10 reading, content, and personal goals that I'm setting for myself this year. If you want to hear me talk about my reasoning behind those, definitely check out that video. But here I will talk about what those 10 goals are and how I'm doing towards them. And just to set the math beforehand, through April is 4 months through the year, obviously, which is 1/3 of the way through the year, or 33% through the year. So in order to track my progress in these goals, I'm looking for at least 33% progress towards the numerical goals, at least for the ones that it makes sense. Some of them are a little different because they are a percentage goal, so those will just be averaged throughout the whole year. But again, as of April, 33% through the year. So let's talk about my first goal, which is to read 120 books in the whole year of 2025. As of the end of April, I had finished 38 books, so 40 books would be 33%. So I'm just below that at 32% of the way towards my goal. So technically, no, I am not on track for achieving this goal. However, I'm very close. So I am going to call this yellow. Like, I'm not in the green, but I'm also not in the red. I'm very close to being on track. So I'm happy with that. Goal number 2 is total workouts. So one thing in my personal life I'm trying to do this year is prioritize moving my body and getting regular workouts in. So I did go ahead and set this goal to be the exact same as my reading goal. So I want to complete 120 workouts by the end of 2025. And as of the end of April, I have completed 42. So that's great news because that is 35% of the way towards the year-end goal. So we are green and good to go on that goal so far. My goal number 3 is to read at least 40% non-white authors by the end of the year. So that means that the percentage can fluctuate and go up and down throughout the year. And I'm just looking to keep that at or above 40% as much as possible. So I want more than 33%. I'm happy to say that as of end of April, 16 of the 38 books that I've completed have been written by non-white authors. So that's 42%. Very happy that that is on track to meet the goal. As well as my number 4 goal is for at least 50% of the books that I read to have some sort of diverse representation within them. Very happy that through April, 19 of the 38 books that I've read do contain that. So that is exactly 50%. So we are exactly right on track towards completing that goal. Okay, then we've got some genre goals. So number 5, my goal was to read 25% or less mystery thrillers. That's because this is a genre that just in general has not been working very well for me. So I want to consciously take a break from consuming so many of those types of books. As of the end of April, I had read 11 mystery thrillers. So 11 out of 38 is 29%. So I'm a little bit high on that goal. So again, I don't want to be close to 33. I want to be 25 or below. So 29% again is not on track for the goal. It's not all that far away. I do think this is something I can pretty easily correct. So I'm going to keep it in yellow, but as of now, I am not meeting that goal. And then my number 6 goal is to read at least 25% or more books in either the historical fiction or nonfiction genres. And as of end of April, I had read 8 of either historical fiction or nonfiction books, which is only 21%. So again, I'm just a little bit low on that goal. Okay, number 7, my goal is to post at least 15 vlogs on my channel that are either Book of the Month vlogs, Aardvark vlogs, or NetGalley Arc reading vlogs. This is the goal that I am probably the furthest away from meeting. As of end of April, I had only posted 2 videos that are any of these types of vlogs. So that's only 13%. That's actually no progress since my last bi-monthly update. And this is unfortunate because I'm not totally sure that I'm going to be able to correct this through the rest of the year. I kind of did this to myself because these first 4 months, I started introducing some other series on my channel. I've done 3 installments of Booktuber Favorites vlogs, which is another video series that I'm loving doing, and I'm so glad that I did towards the beginning of this year, but that's definitely time that could have gone towards these other vlog series on my channel. I also did a fantasy vlog, which again, I'm glad that I did, but took away from time that I could have been focusing on Book of the Month or Aardvark or NetGalley arcs. So if I had framed this goal differently, maybe I should have just said like recurring vlog series on my channel, because that is what I like focusing my content towards. But for the purposes of this, I did specifically name those 3 types of vlogs, and I've only posted 2 so far. So we're gonna call this goal red. I'm not sure if I have a good chance of making it up through the rest of the year, but I will do my best. I am currently working on an Aardvark vlog, which will be up very soon. Book of the Month will be on deck after that. NetGalley Arc vlogs are the ones that I'm really gonna have to get back in the routine of doing. Okay, goal number 8 is to post 52 videos in total by the end of the year. As of the end of April, I had posted 16 videos. So that's around 31%. So again, very, very close to that 33% threshold. That's definitely one that I think I will be able to get back on track for. Okay, number 9 is to read 25 5-star books in the year of 2025. This one was an ambitious one for me. I expressed that at the time of setting this goal, that it would be kind of a stretch. As of the end of April, I had read 5 5-star books. So that's only 20% of the way towards the goal. So definitely some work to do towards that one. And then last but not least, my 10th goal was to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. We are well on our way. I did some calculation and I should have been at approximately 4,183 subscribers by the end of April in order to be on track. I'm definitely a bit below that, so we're a little bit behind, but the thing about YouTube growth is it's not exactly linear. So it's not like I'm expecting this exact number of subscribers to come every single month. That's just not really how it works. So this is one that is admittedly completely out of my control. So I'll just keep posting the content that I want to post and doing collaborations that I want to do with other creators in hopes to spread the word a little bit. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to call it yellow, not quite on track, but kind of close. So let's see. At the end of this, I am perfectly on track for 3 of the 10 goals. I'm really close, like within 5%-ish for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other goals. And then I'd consider myself red or really not on track for 2 of the 10 goals. So overall, I feel like I'm doing pretty well. And honestly, this is the reason I check in with these goals on a bi-monthly basis, because I like to see how I'm doing so that I can kind of course correct throughout the year as I need to. And I know that this is working because actually the goals that I was green on last time are not the same goals that I'm green on this time. So I have course corrected some of the goals that I want to, and I've let some others drop off. So I think this is helpful to really help me focus my efforts, make sure I'm prioritizing the types of books and the types of content that I want to prioritize. So overall, I'm still feeling very good, very positive about where this year is going. So with that, that is all that I have for my March and April wrap-up video. Please let me know if you have read any of the books that I already talked about, and if you have any thoughts to share about them. Let me know if you haven't read any of them, if I convinced you to pick any of them up. Let me know if there are any types of content that you would like to see me try to incorporate in the future. I definitely like to keep that in mind when I'm doing my content planning. And other than that, I don't think I have anything else. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.